This happened 3 summers ago when I agreed to house sit for one of my managers. At the time, I was working at a small marketing company. My manager, Nathan, was going overseas with his wife for 10 days, and he needed someone to stay at their lake house and take care of their dog. I had seen pictures of the property before. It was one of those houses that looked like it belonged in a vacation rental advertisement. It had huge windows facing the water, a private dock, a small boathouse and enough bedrooms for a family twice the size of theirs. Nathan offered me $400, which was more than enough to convince me. The only downside was the location. The house was almost 40 minutes from the nearest town. Most of the surrounding properties were seasonal homes, so during the week, the area was practically empty. Nathan assured me that the house had cameras, motion lights and an alarm system. He also had a large German shepherd named Bruno. Bruno was friendly with me, but he was definitely not the type of dog someone would want to encounter while breaking into a house. The first 2 nights were completely normal. I worked remotely during the day, took Bruno outside in the evening and spent most of the night watching movies in the living room. On the 3rd night, I noticed something strange across the lake. There was a light moving between the trees on the opposite shore. At first, I assumed someone was walking with a flashlight. The light would appear for a few seconds, disappear behind the trees and then appear again farther down the shoreline. That wasn't particularly alarming. What bothered me was that whenever I walked toward one of the windows, the light stopped moving. When I stepped away, it started again. I tested this several times before deciding I was letting the isolation get to me. The next morning, I found Bruno sitting beside the basement door. He wasn't barking or scratching at it. He was simply staring at the door with his ears raised. Nathan had told me there was nothing interesting downstairs, just the heating system, some tools and storage boxes. I opened the door and switched on the light. Bruno immediately backed away. That should have been enough for me to leave it alone, but curiosity got the better of me. I walked downstairs and looked around. Everything appeared normal. There were metal shelves, plastic containers, and an old workbench covered with tools. At the far end of the basement was a narrow wooden door. I opened it and found a small space underneath the house. It was too low to stand inside and appeared to be some kind of maintenance crawlspace. A cold, damp smell came from inside. I shined my phone's flashlight into it but couldn't see more than a few feet. There were marks in the dust near the entrance. They looked like something had been dragged across the floor. I closed the door and went back upstairs. That afternoon, I texted Nathan and asked if anyone had been doing maintenance under the house. He said no. He also told me not to enter the crawlspace because there were exposed pipes and electrical wiring inside. I didn't mention the marks. That night, Bruno woke me at around 2 in the morning. He was standing beside the bed, growling. It wasn't his normal warning bark when he heard an animal outside. This was a low, continuous growl. I sat up and listened. Somewhere underneath the bedroom, I heard 3 slow knocks. Knock. 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 Bruno moved toward the bedroom door. I stayed completely still. A few seconds later, the knocking happened again, only this time it came from underneath the hallway. Something was moving below the floor. I grabbed my phone and checked the security camera application Nathan had shown me. The driveway camera was clear. The front porch was empty. The camera facing the dock showed nothing except the black surface of the lake. Then the dock's motion light switched on. A person was standing at the end of it. The image was too dark to see their face, but I could tell it was a woman. She was wearing a long pale dress or nightgown. She wasn't walking toward the house. She was staring directly at the camera. I called the police. I explained that there was someone on the property and that I could hear noises underneath the house. The dispatcher told me officers were on the way, but because of the location, it could take at least 20 minutes. While I was speaking to her, the dock camera went black. A second later, the boathouse camera went offline. Then the camera facing the back door disappeared from the application. Someone was disabling them one by one. I locked the bedroom door and pushed a dresser against it. Bruno continued growling at the floor. The dispatcher told me to remain upstairs and not confront anyone. Then I heard the basement door open. It made a long squeaking sound that traveled through the entire house. Someone slowly climbed the stairs. I could hear each step. The strange part was that Bruno stopped growling. He moved behind me and began whining. The footsteps reached the main floor and stopped. For almost a minute, there was complete silence. Then a man's voice called my name. Not Nathan's name. Mine. He said it gently, almost as though he knew me. I hadn't told anyone in the area that I was staying there. Nathan and his wife were already overseas, and none of my friends knew the exact address. The man called my name again. This time, he was directly outside the bedroom. The doorknob slowly turned. I was holding Bruno's collar with one hand and a heavy lamp with the other. The person pushed against the door, but the dresser kept it closed. Then he said something that still bothers me. He said, "You weren't supposed to open the little door." The pushing stopped. I heard him walk away. A moment later, something struck the bedroom window. The glass cracked but didn't break. I realized the person had gone outside and was trying to force me out of the room. The bedroom had another door leading to a small balcony overlooking the lake. Directly below it was a sloped section of roof above the kitchen. I opened the balcony door, climbed over the railing and lowered myself onto the roof. Bruno was too large to carry, but I couldn't leave him inside. I called him through the opening. He hesitated for a second and then jumped onto the roof beside me. We slid down the shingles and dropped into a flower bed. The moment we hit the ground, Bruno began barking toward the corner of the house. A man stepped into view. He was barefoot and covered in dirt. His clothing looked wet, and he was holding what appeared to be a metal pipe. Bruno charged at him. The man backed away, giving me enough time to run toward the dock. Nathan kept a small fishing boat tied beside it. The keys were normally hanging inside the boathouse, but I didn't have time to look for them. Instead, I untied a kayak that had been left beside the water. I pushed it into the lake and climbed inside. Bruno jumped into the water and swam after me. I paddled away while calling him toward the opposite shore. As I looked back, I saw two people standing on the dock. The barefoot man was there. Beside him was the woman I had seen on the camera. Neither of them tried to follow us. They simply watched us cross the lake. The police arrived at the property about 15 minutes later. Officers from another unit met me on the opposite shore after a homeowner let me inside. The police searched Nathan's house but found no one. They did, however, find something underneath it. The crawlspace connected the basement to the boathouse through a narrow maintenance passage. Inside, officers discovered blankets, food containers, bottled water, candles and several pieces of women's clothing. Someone had apparently been living beneath the property. The marks I had seen in the dust were from plastic storage containers being pulled through the passage. The police also found printed photographs of the house. In several of them, Nathan and his wife were standing inside, photographed through the windows. There were also 3 pictures of me. One showed me arriving with my luggage. Another showed me sitting on the dock. The final picture had been taken through the bedroom window while I was asleep. Nathan sold the house less than 6 months later. The 2 people were never identified. The police believed they had been entering empty vacation properties around the lake and using the crawlspaces or boathouses as temporary shelters. That explanation makes sense. What doesn't make sense is how the man knew my name. I never found a photograph showing me speaking on the phone, opening mail, or doing anything else that could have revealed it. Sometimes I convince myself that he overheard me during a work call. Then I remember what he said outside the bedroom. "You weren't supposed to open the little door." That didn't sound like a homeless person trying to frighten me away. It sounded like someone who believed I had entered his home.